At the time, I was still head of design with Ye. Taylor Swift shows up in my 550s, and
Did she not know that they were yours?
Oh God, I don't think so.
Oh my gosh.
So there's that constant battle between those two, and then here she is wearing a pair of sneakers designed by Kanye's head of design. I thought it was pretty funny.
That's incredible.
Very ironic. This is one of the pre-production friends and family wave runners. They're beat to crap. I mean, I wore them pretty much every day for 7 years. I had to glue the toe back on.
Wow.
But you can see the suede is very different than what's on the production ones. My legacy is my art, and I made accessible art, and I think that's one of the coolest things. I can look around here, and I can go, oh, look, there's one I did, there's one I did, there's one I did, there's one I did. That kid's got them on, that guy's got them on. And that, to me, is more satisfying than money.
APTHCRY on the wave. Shoes off, pause, yeah, let's get it. Shoes off, but the vibes stay loud. APTHCRY heat, yeah, I'm flexing in the crowd. Socks on the scene, that's a subtle little flex. Talking.
This past weekend, Osman and I got a chance to sit down with literally one of the sneaker design goats, Steven Smith. If you're not familiar with the name, he's responsible for some of the most iconic sneakers of all time. Starting off at New Balance, he designed the New Balance 574, the New Balance 550, the New Balance 996, just to name a few. During his time at Reebok, he designed the Reebok Instapump Fury. He also worked at Nike for 10 years and got to work with people like Bill Bowerman and Tinker Hatfield. And during that time, he designed some of Nike's most iconic silhouettes, like the Nike Zoom Spiridon Cage 2. Not to mention the Shox Monster and the original VaporMax Air Unit. Currently, he's at Crocs creating some incredible sneakers, which we can't show you, but we got a chance to see them, and I can tell you they are fire. But a lot of sneakerheads who maybe weren't familiar with his work became familiar with who he was and his work because of his time as the head of design at Yeezy. Steven Smith had a hand in creating almost every Adidas Yeezy silhouette. He worked directly with Kanye. He was literally Kanye's right-hand man, and he is responsible for the Yeezy 700, one of the most iconic sneakers of all time. So like I said, we got a chance to sit down with him for about an hour at SneakerCon LA, so you will probably hear some background noise throughout this podcast. I did my best to minimize it, but it is there just to let you know. So sit back, relax, and enjoy an unfiltered conversation with Steven Smith about his time at Yeezy and creating some of the most iconic and best-selling sneaker silhouettes of all time.
These aren't bad, they're nice.
Yeah, we wanted to create something like easy to slip on. Yeah,
they're nice. I mean, he's made a lot of progress on it.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you guys knew, but I did one of the first boots with him.
Did you?
For one of Kanye's Paris shows.
Was that the 3D print of the black boot?
Yeah, that was the black boot. So it was kind of fun. You know, I kept trying to give those guys their big break.
Right.
You know, and it was hard. He kept changing his mind on things, and wanted to do boots. They didn't want to do boots, and so those guys busted their butts though to get that thing done in time. And they didn't have a printer that could print it tall enough, so that's why it ended up being two pieces, and they glued it together.
Oh, I didn't know that. I was wondering how that was made.
Yeah. They're, like I said, they're good guys. I like what they're doing. I think people need to push the envelope a little bit more on what can be done with 3D printing.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do it. I don't know. We'll see.
Amazing. First of all, this is incredible to have you on. We have a legend, an absolute legend, Steven Smith, designing some of the most iconic footwear of all time. In fact, on foot, you've got truly one of the craziest samples I've ever seen in my entire life. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is one of the pre-production friends and family wave runners. They're beat to crap. I mean, I wore them pretty much every day for 7 years. I had to glue the toe back on.
Wow.
But you can see the suede is very different than what's on the production ones. It's much nappier. The other one's a little bit smoother, and the nap is much lower on the suede. The Iro material is a much nicer grade of leather. And even just the overall shapes and everything are different than the production ones. But I thought I'd wear something special for SneakerCon LA, you know, since this is between here and Portland is where I designed them with Ye. So
I'm sure a lot of people are going to be excited to see, like, these haven't released to the public as is.
Yeah, you know, I did switch out the laces because they had the light butter yellow laces, and I changed them to a reflective one.
I love the reflective. What was the design process like for this? So what was did you have an initial brief for it, or was it something that you were just like, I'm going for it?
It's a different process than anybody understands, you know? He was like, I want to do a dad shoe, and I'm like, what are you talking about, you know? And he goes, just design one, or, you know, design an old school running shoe and make it futuristic and make it retro. And I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. So I just started sketching, and he's like, yeah, like that, you know. And that was in person. And then I would come down here Tuesdays through Thursdays. So I went back up to Oregon, and then he had Ding, who was a young kid out of school with him there, and Ding kind of photoshopped it a little bit because Ye was like, do this, do that, make the color like that. Then they'd send it to me, and I'd be like, what is this? And I'd redesign it and then send it back, and then they photoshopped it, send it back to me again, and I would redraw it. And that final process was 48 hours of going back and forth, and out of the end of it came this thing. And it was really interesting because I didn't understand what he was asking me to do. And because everything else was like, the Roshi was big, it was all simple, 350, it just dropped, so very simple.
Right.
And this thing was old school with lots of bits and pieces, but it still looked like nothing else. As we were working on it, I revised it to have what's become known as the Stephen Smith tip that kind of came from the Fury and some of my early New Balance designs on it. So it has my signature to it. It has Ye's signature. It's kind of this first hybridization of our DNA together to create what would become the modern language of Yeezy.
Right.
And again, when we first showed it to people, like, oh, that's not another 350. What is that thing, you know? And since when it came out, it was a huge success, and a lot of people now consider it the definitive Adidas Yeezy.
Absolutely. I pre-ordered it when the pre-orders first dropped back in 2017, and I was so excited about it. It was one of those shoes that at the time, I think at least from a sneakerhead point of view, I was making YouTube videos about sneakers, and I mentioned that I pre-ordered it, and people were like, the reaction was so split, but then as soon as you got it in hand, and as soon as people saw the videos of it, it was like an immediate like, wow, this is something different. And it was right when like, it was such a different, like you were saying, such a different shoe for the time, and it literally created a trend that hasn't gone away.
Even the color blocking is like...
Well, it was funny, you know, when before I started to work for him, this article came out, I think it was in High Snobiety, where they called me the godfather of dad shoes. And I was kind of pissed because they didn't tell me what they were going to call the article. They just said, oh, you want to do an interview with you about your career. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, godfather of dad shoes? What the? I do high-tech running stuff and, you know, performance. And I was kind of upset with it. But it was the final thing where he was looking for somebody to be his head of design and work directly with him. And he's like, that's the guy I want.
That's incredible.
So the article that I was upset about is the one that like sealed the deal that he told Adidas, get that guy, that's who I want. And so anyway, you know, you never know. Some of these negatives can easily become a positive, and you don't really know where life will take you with it.
Absolutely.
And then ever since, the thing has retained its status and value. And the thing that was fun is at the time we were talking about creating this thing, he and I had these conversations on time and the relativity of time. You know, the past is the past, the present is the now, the future is what we want it to be. Let's build the future that we wanted. And it was funny, it was that idea of timelessness of some of these things in design. And you go back and you look at this shoe now and like, when is it from? You know when it dropped,
right?
But aesthetically, when is it from? It could be from the 70s, it could be from the 90s, it could be from the future, but you know when it was created,
right.
But it's in the now. And it was kind of cool because it was almost like an aesthetic reflection of those conversations. And you look at it, you're like, well, of course it's 700. It's always been.
Right.
Even though it came out 2017, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of fun to interject that philosophy into the design. And after we were done, he's like, you know what I did? I'm like, what's that? He goes, I made you design your New Balance if you still work there 35 years later. I said, yeah, you kind of did. You know, because that's what he was after, was that vibe, because the New Balances were just starting to gain in some popularity, right, and that whole dad shoe vibe. And you know, we kicked it into overdrive. So
Absolutely.
kind of fun to, you know, continually change the culture of the industry over the years from those early New Balance shoes that I did. That I always thought was funny when they did that article. You know, they took the picture of me now. It said Godfather or Dad shoes, but like I designed those shoes when I was the 22-year-old punk rocker with my spike hair and my "fuck you" attitude. You know, so it's very funny because it's the total contrast and opposite as to who the expectation was of who created this thing.
Right.
You know,
Right.
the conformist dad comfort shoe done by the rebel go fuck yourself punk rocker. You know, so to this day I'm still, you know, straight edge punk rock. No drugs, no alcohol, my whole life.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I think it's probably why I don't look my age.
You look great.
You
look
know,
great.
so.
What was the first shoe that you worked on that came out, and what was your reaction of that when you first saw it in hand, like you first saw people wearing it in public?
I think about it's probably the 996 at New Balance. That shoe, I ran in the 990 in high school. And then the 995 was just coming out. And then when I got there, that was the very first thing I touched was I did some perf pattern ideas for the tip in the front on the 995. So when I got this job at New Balance, I was like, wow, I get to design the shoe I run in. How cool is that? And at the time, I was only the second designer in New Balance's history. There was another guy, Kevin Brown, who was a year older than me. They had hired him the year before. And the two of us was the entire New Balance design team. We designed everything there. And he kind of focused more on some of the basketball and women's training style. So like he did the Worthy Express, which is another really cool shoe. Brownie was a super talent. And we just, people think it's like this big team, but it was just the two of us. Like, what do you want to work on? I said, I don't know. I ran track. Why don't I do the running shoe? Okay, you do that one. And I said, you want to do the basketball? Yeah, I'll do the basketball shoe. And that's how it worked. And again, it's kind of exciting. So you say about the first one, but the thing that's really kind of mind-blowing to me, and the ALD guys gave it a new life, but the 550 is amazing because I designed that one when I was 23 years old.
Wow.
And to see that thing come back stronger than ever.
Yep.
And there's a really cool guy in New Balance England, Sam Pierce, and he's in charge of all the vintage reissues. And so he always reaches out to me like, did we get it right? Are the materials good? Is this how you intended it to be back then? And so it's a really nice friendship with, I would say partnership, but it's not even that because there's no business side of it for me. It's a friendship, and I they're like your children. You want them to present your children in the best way possible. So when they reintroduce them, it's really nice that he reaches out to me. So those two have been really cool.
Did they change anything about the design of the 550s for the re-release of it?
No, it's perfect. It's
amazing.
nuts on
Same materials, same
everything.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's cool to see it. And it's funny, you know, when I left New Balance in 89, I ended up, I had all the prototypes and sample colorways and everything because we sampled in size 9 and I was a size 9. And I went to go work at Adidas, and I'm like, I can't have this New Balance stuff. So I had a lot of friends who didn't go to college or didn't have good jobs. They worked in a gas station or a supermarket. I gave them each bags, like hefty bags of all my New Balances. And so
Wow.
I don't have any of them, which kind of sucks because today they're worth a fortune. Hopefully those guys still have them.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of samples,
That's
probably.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, colors that were never made. I mean, just rad stuff.
It's really cool seeing samples and seeing some of your work and sort of seeing your design process and your ideation from where it started to sort of the finished product. And that's one thing I was really excited about seeing the samples on your feet. Like you really do see some of your thought process through the materials, through even like you were talking about the laces. It's really, really cool to see that.
Even the change, like how they changed. And I want to ask, why was the materials changed on the production run? Was that a money? Okay.
Save a little bit. If you notice, every drop of the Wave Runners, the material changes a little bit, and they take a little bit, they squeeze a little more profit out, dumb down the materials just a little bit. You know, that's Adidas and what they chose to do. And, you know, it's part of why there was some abrasion in the end of cheapening the product every time because there was a level of quality that he wanted to maintain and that I wanted to maintain in it, to be honest.
Absolutely.
And they were always kind of dumbing it down or cheesing it out. Like the originals were all made in China in one specific factory, and the guys at Flight Club last night handed me a pair, and I flipped them over, and they were made in India. I'm like,
wow.
When did we make them in India? And it's not while we were together.
Right.
It was that last batch that Adidas dumped.
Like that last retro of the last re-release of it. Did the materials change from so for the original colorway? Did the materials change each release, or was it like maybe a worse cut of suede or a worse cut of whatever?
I think they tried to maintain the materials. Okay. The problem comes in with the color requests, and that some materials won't hold the color as well. So there's a few things that changed up, but mostly all the 700s were pretty much the same materials.
Gotcha.
How do you feel like when you design a shoe, you get the sample and it's perfect, then the production run, they change the materials for cost? Like, as the designer,
it kind of pisses you off because you're like, that's not as nice as what I wanted it to be, and they're like, we need to just squeeze a few more pennies out.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, for God's sakes, then raise the price. That was a cool thing, everything was very simplified, and the 350, the Roshi, it was cheap, minimalist construction, and then this thing came out with all these pieces of these high value materials. And I was going to, this thing's going to cost a fortune. What are we doing here? He goes, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll price it. He goes, just make it and we'll set the price. And that's what we did. And it was a different way of working, because everywhere else you're under like a recipe or a constraint. And this was freedom. Like that burden was removed of worrying about the price.
Right.
And it was liberating. Because we're just going to make the best thing ever, and then he'll price it.
That's incredible.
And it was completely different. And now that I'm with Crocs, they've kind of turned me loose to do the same kind of thing. Like, just go create, and we'll figure it out after.
Yeah.
And it's nice that a company's receptive to that mentality of, that free creation, because they can see how successful it was,
right,
and want to get a part of that success for their brand and help grow it, which is great. It's very unique within the corporate world.
Would you say that your design freedom now is significantly greater than it was when you were at New Balance on that nimble team? Like, would you say that it's gotten, or back then, where they give you like, we need a running shoe,
and they just let you go?
Let you go, yeah.
You definitely had price points and a target and all of that. It was just different. It was good because the industry was smaller and not as developed. So there was a little bit more freedom, but you're still within the corporate structure. And at the time, we thought they were so conservative. But it was performance-based. Now we have, I think Nike was responsible for this, of bringing in the seasons like in an apparel industry of like fall, winter, spring, back to school, holiday. And then it got down to like Halloween packs and all of that. Back then, we had a model and it was time to update and refresh.
Right.
Or a new material or a new process came out that we could make it better. Then it was time to do a new one. It wasn't like, every year we have to do a new one. We're like, there's a better suede or a better midsole material or a better process. Let's upgrade the shoe. And that's a different mentality than the way the business is run today. And that was refreshing too, because I think it shaped how I work of newer and better. You wouldn't do it unless you could make it newer and better, not just new and different.
They're not like planning obsolescence like they are now. It's like you're trying to create the best product possible. I love that.
At that moment in time. And I think that mindset shaped these products. So like for him, I made the best shoe I could at that moment in time. And time is told that it was the right thing, right? Because here it is. It's this timeless classic.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I think it's a mindset and how you create.
That makes sense. When do you think that shift was, at least in footwear design, when it went from trying to create the best shoe out there and having things, Birkenstock's still around now where you can literally have the sole replaced, things like that. When did it switch from that sort of mentality to this current, like, we got to have a new Jordan out every year, we got to have a new whatever out every year? Like,
I think it's just as the business grew and became more profitable and bigger, you just have to feed the beast, and I think that's one of the problems Nike has to wrestle with right now is they became the beast. They became like General Motors, you know? You go buy a Chevrolet, it's a, you know, it's a white appliance car that you get from a rental agency.
Right.
Other than the Corvette, even the Corvette's kind of spotty in its design in places. There's nothing that's passionate or like, I gotta have that car. It's like, oh, I need a car. I might as well get this thing. I know it's gonna work when I start it, maybe.
Right.
Hondas are more like that, though, where you know it's going to be reliable. And I think they're at that point where it's reliability as opposed to excitement and passion, and I got to have it. And so I think that's been another key ingredient where, like, I got to create something so compelling that the kids got to have it, right? But I want to make something so cool that I would want it myself. Not designed for myself. There's a difference.
Right.
Because a lot of designers who end up being mediocre because they design for themselves. And it's like, you're not me, but I as a really good designer, I needed something you want.
Yeah.
Because I'll get what I want,
Right.
but I got to get your money, and I got to make you happy with something that you feel you got a great value out of.
Right. That makes sense. So when you're starting with a new project, does your design process start with sketching? Does it start with modeling? Like, what's your general flow?
So I start with a loose sketch, and then I either detail it out or I jump to making. So with Yeezy, with Ye, I had a small shop at home with sewing machines and different glues and processes and things. And then I had access for a while to Adidas sample facility, so I could do some molding and various things. So I just go hand make the first ones myself and bring them down to him. And that in itself is very unique in the industry, because a lot of people don't know how or don't know what to do when it comes to making something. And to me, I like feeling the form as I'm building it, and then get it, you know, the feel of the materials and how it pulls, and that can affect the shape that you get it just right. And I like to do that. So there's a picture of Bianca in these white furry boots with the Vultures merch on. Like, I handmade those boots for her at home. Yeah.
Just to like jump back like to your school days, did you know you wanted to design shoes?
No,
Or
God,
did that
no.
just fall on your lap?
I wanted to design stuff. I loved cars. I originally wanted to design cars, and then I realized in the auto industry, you don't get to design the whole thing. You could go be the guy who designs window crank handles or hubcaps for your whole career. And I'm like, nah, you know. But I ran high school track. I always laugh because I always say it's like Al Bundy, where he's like, yeah, I made the running touchdown for Polk High. And I was like, I ran high school track. I wasn't great, but I loved to run, and I ran in New Balances. And when I graduated and New Balance was looking for their second ever designer, I didn't know anybody designed sneakers, which at the time they didn't. It was a new career choice.
Right.
It was just kind of developing. And there were just a handful of us in those days, you know, Kevin Brown, myself, Wilson Smith, Tinker, another guy, Ray Tonkel, Bruce Kilgore, Peter Moore. We were kind of the first to do this as a job.
Right.
So I always say that. It's like we could have gone into it as a job like sweeping the floor, or gone into it and made it something really fucking cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we did. And we made it cool. We made it interesting that all these kids want to do it.
Right.
And so I think
You certainly did.
yeah, and I think that alone is part of my legacy beyond just the product itself. It's like making the process and the job exciting and interesting. So
I know for us, we were both into footwear. We actually met in industrial design school back in 2010, and I think the reason we both were interested in design was your work and others' work. It was the footwear. It was the sort of the product side of fashion. I think is what we were really interested in. And
well, it was interesting because the stuff was performance based, and it made its way to fashion.
Yeah.
You know, it was funny, the Pump Fury when I did, and he's got on the BBC collabs right now, which because I saw him. You see your stuff wherever you go. That's the other
Does that happen a
satisfying
lot too?
thing.
I feel like you see your stuff everywhere.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the coolest things too. You know, a lot of people are driven by money.
Right.
My legacy is my art, and I made accessible art, and I think that's one of the coolest things. I can look around here, and I can go, oh look, there's one I did, there's one I did, there's one I did, there's one I did. That kid's got them on, that guy's got them on, And that to me is more satisfying than money.
Right.
Because those will live forever above and beyond me. They've become larger than life. And normal artists, you have to go to a gallery or go to a museum. I mean, my stuff is on anybody, anywhere in the world. And that itself is more rewarding than money to me. I mean, I might be a weirdo, but that's more rewarding. And I always want to go thank everybody. Like, thank you for appreciating my design. You have your New Balance 550s on. Do you like? Oh, I love these. They're the most comfortable. I'm like, thank you. And they're like, why do you care? And I'm like, well, I might have designed them before you were born, but and the 550 is still one of my favorite funny stories of, at the time I was still head of design with Ye. Taylor Swift shows up in my 550s, and
Did she not know that they were yours?
No, God, I don't think so.
Oh my god.
So there's that constant battle between those two. And then here she is wearing a pair of sneakers designed by Kanye's head of design. I thought it was pretty funny.
That's incredible.
Very ironic.
That's incredible.
That's funny.
Oh my gosh. So how do you feel about all your shoes kind of having almost not a second life, but like have the staying power? Like, you have so many silhouettes that are still incredibly popular to this day. I mean, that probably is incredibly fulfilling, because
arguably more popular today.
I know, that's what's crazy. I wish I got a penny for every fucking pair. Not that the money's important, but it would have been nice.
But why not? Why not?
I could have had a second house and another car, but it's all right. It's pretty cool. I always tell people, I never sat down and designed this thing and said, oh, this is so iconic, it's going to be sold for 35 fucking years. I just did the right thing at the moment in time, and it turned out it was. And it just, I don't know, like I always say, I got a gift from God to create these things. And I want to share it. And that's what was so cool about working with Ye, above and beyond all the New Balance stuff. It gave me that platform and that opportunity, and he empowered me, right, to make greater product, and it was good. And Crocs is doing the same thing. And Hey Dude. So it'll be some exciting things coming from Crocs very soon.
I'm really excited to see it. I love what Crocs has been doing recently. The fact that they're working with people like you. People are going to want to buy your shoe because it's your shoe. I think that's really cool that they're giving you sort of the freedom to do that. I want to buy the shoe because I know I love the work of the designer. And so being able to buy your shoe or a Soleil here or whatever the case may be for Crocs, like, it's really, really cool that they're doing that.
Yeah, it's funny. They were like, should we put a signature on it? I said, no, I don't want my name on any of it. I'm here for Crocs. Right. This is about Crocs, which is kind of fun, to offer that. But to me, that's not the important thing. Those that know will know. And probably the first 100 or so pairs, I'll probably hand sign.
Incredible.
And I don't.
The pairs that are going out to the public. So am I gonna have to be waiting and refreshing Crocs' website when your fares drop?
I don't know. We'll see what we do with them.
Like, time frame of when your work might be public?
Real soon. I have a pair with me. I'm just deciding whether I should expose them or not, but we'll see.
Fair enough. Maybe when the cameras turn off, we can check it out.
I would love to see.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to go back to the hotel.
Okay, no worries.
Was there a specific point in your design career that you think was your favorite time or your favorite experience?
Every place had a magic moment. I was at Nike for 10 and a half years. The first 5 years were pretty amazing when Phil Knight was involved.
Oh, wow.
I got to go hang out with Bowerman, which to me, that was a magic moment, was going to hang out with Bill for a week and just pick his brain and sketch with him. And he was yelling at me like, that a Nike shoe? I'm like, yeah, make the goddamn swoosh bigger. And I'm like, all right. And then Barbara Bowerman was like, be nice to the young man, Bill, will you? So that was kind of fun and, silly. And I was one of the few designers in Nike's history that actually got to do that. I mean, certainly none of the modern ones because Bill passed away. But it was cool because, it's kind of like what I did with Ye, where he viewed me as the vessel and the carrier of the DNA of the brand. And that's what I was for him. So I may have not 100% designed every Yeezy model, but I had a hand in it. And my flavor and vibe is in all of it just as much as his is. So, but that moment at Nike. There were moments at New Balance that were amazing. Reebok, when the Fury launched, I'm sitting there watching the MTV Music Awards, and growing up as a kid in Boston, Aerosmith was the fucking greatest band in the world, and Steven Tyler comes out in the MTV Music Awards in my Pump Fury. And in those days, there was no PR firm giving them out. He bought them. And I was like, holy shit, my rock idol is wearing my design. How fucking cool is that, right? And then Bjork wore them nonstop. That was really cool. And then Jackie Chan, of course, he popularized them through the Asia Pacific region. That was a magic moment there. So yeah, I don't know. It's tough to pinpoint one. Because I've done so many successful ones, I guess. I don't know. And the Taylor Swift one, obviously, in the 550s.
That's wild. That's one of the that's an incredible story. Oh my gosh. How do you feel about footwear design currently? Like, how do you feel about modern footwear design?
I think we're in a weird spot where we were such a catalyst in Yeezy of pushing the envelope and doing new things and creating disparate looks to what the market was at and resetting the marketplace.
Right.
And I think without us there, it's gotten kind of in a malaise and not too exciting. I think things need to come in and kind of shake shit up again.
Yeah.
Whether that's me through Crocs or whatever. Even Nike needs to step up their game. Somebody needs to, because they kind of got lazy, and Hoka and On and brands like that were able to creep in and steal their market share. Right. So, we need a strong Nike. We need a strong Adidas. Obviously we need a strong Crocs, but we need those brands to be strong to elevate the level of product to compete, right? Because if there's no threat, there's no reason to move ahead. And, at Yeezy, we took these quantum leaps because every time we came out with a new style, if you look at it, it's not derivative. We created individual art pieces that were accessible by the kid who wanted it.
Right.
The 700 looks nothing like the 500, looks nothing like the 450, looks nothing like a 750. That's what was so cool about it. But you look at it, and because of the DNA that he and I infused in it, you immediately know it's a Yeezy without any branding. It didn't have a swoosh to be lazy about. The swoosh is kind of like, oh yeah, it's fucking Nike. It's got a swoosh on it. It's like a comfort thing. But with our stuff, we purposely didn't do that. We let the design speak rather than the brand. And so I think that was really cool because not everybody can own a Mona Lisa,
right?
But you could own a 500, you could own a 700. They were limited, but you could still get it. It was accessible art. And again, that's what I like. I can look around here and the world is my gallery. It's pretty amazing. This guy pair at 700s right there.
That's incredible.
There was another kid going by in 550s.
Anywhere you look, you probably see your
something
shoes.
I did.
Especially in a place like this.
Oh God, yeah, this is the sneaker con's good.
How does it feel like you walk around and you see these tables and you probably see like 3, 4, 10 pairs of your shoes. Like people are collecting.
I know. I tell them, I said, I really like those Yeezys. They're like, yeah, they're really cool. I said, yeah, aren't they? No, I don't tell them or anything unless the hardcore people know who I am. But a lot of those reseller kids, they're like, oh yeah, thanks for looking at my table. I'm like,
are you gonna buy any? Yeah.
I think I got a few of them already.
Yeah, you got the ones that no one's ever seen before. Ones.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you see, like maybe online or that people say that maybe you wish you could explain to them? Like maybe there's something about a design that you see people not like, and it's like if you just understood why we had to make that decision or why that design choice was made. Like, do you have any like common sort of things that you see that you're like, I wish I could just explain it to people?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good question. There really aren't that many. In the industry changed in the early 90s with Foot Locker, and the companies had tech reps, like the Eakins at Nike, for example. They went out, they were the evangelists, they told everybody what it was. They would go to stores for a new launch and be there along with the Foot Locker people and explain the design and the product. But as budgets changed and priorities changed and Foot Locker cut back on the amount of people on the floor, the kids weren't as versed in the product as much as it used to be. The product would then just go out on the shelf without anybody who understood what it really was.
Right.
So it shifted in my mind how to design it, that the thing had to tell its own story. And I think all of my stuff does that through the design. So I think they sing their own song is the best way to put it, because they had to survive.
Right.
I mean, you see a Vans, it's so simple, you know what a Vans is, but when it came to things like a 500 or a Wave Runner, I mean, Wave Runner, that wasn't even really at retail, right? It just showed up on the website. They sold out in 20 minutes. You know, the 450, for example, one of the last ones that we did together with Adidas, that thing sold out in 47 seconds. No advertising, no retail presence. And then it would have been 30 seconds, but it bogged down Adidas server so much that it ate into 15 seconds
insane.
more for the selling out.
It's like design and influence.
Yeah, it's crazy, you know? And together, I think he and I were this perfect matching of the yin and yang of how we worked together and created. It's the Tinker and Jordan. We were the modern Tinker and Jordan.
At the time that you were dropping the shoes, like the hype was the most hype I've ever seen for any kind of product release. Like it was truly like it was a machine.
Specifically a new product. Yes.
Yeah,
Obviously,
and people were
some
just
Jordans
waiting
get,
and
like, crazy hype.
waiting and watching to see what he had on and what he was wearing, you know, and then he'd distract him with the those line worker electrical boots, and then we came out with something else, and it was always kind of fun. Or he'd wear a Solomon or an Arc'teryx thing, and you know, then we'd come out with our new style, and it was kind of fun. But the kids were so hyped about it that, like, if he wore this Arc'teryx thing, all of a sudden this Arc'teryx thing would sell out. We had nothing to do with it other than he wore it one day, you know. It was kind of fun to see the reaction.
Like your relationship and working relationship with Ye, was there anything that you learned from that kind of collaboration that you've took forward? Obviously you were an established designer at that point, but did you learn anything from kind of that work relationship?
I think it was a different way of working. You know, we created all of these different styles, and we may not have had the intention of producing them all, but what we were doing was very different in the process. The normal process, guy just bought the Red Octobers. The normal process is, like you said, you get a brief, somebody goes somewhere, formulates it with marketing, or they do some focus groups, they come up with this brief, and then they give it to the designer, and you kind of sit, talk about it with them, and you start sketching. You do 4 sketches, you narrow it down to 2, down to 1. With him, I would bring 20 sketches. He'd just say, he'd have an idea, and then I would just go off and sketch. Or I would have an idea. I'd see a sci-fi movie I liked and be inspired and just design a shoe. Like, what would the character wear? Tron, you know, what would they wear for Tron? And I would do 20 to 30 sketches, and I'd lay them on the table. He'd like, let's make them all. And Adidas would freak out, like, no, this isn't, you know, we need to make 2 to the 1. And he's like, make 200. Right. And so I became... And again, that's where we're kind of this perfect pairing. He was creatively insatiable, and I've been described in my past, like at Reebok, of, you know, being almost unmanageable, of creatively explosive.
Right. And
I would come with 20 sketches every time, and the Adidas kids who were supposed to be helping me would come with 2 to 4. And Ye would be like, what's this? You know, and lay out Stevens, and he'd be like, oh, you know. Then they told me, can you throttle it back and only bring 2 to 4? You're making us look bad. And I'm like, I'm not here to make you look good. You're here to make yourself look good. Step it up to my level. I said, sure, I'll do that. So the next week I brought 50, right?
That's incredible.
And he was happy as could be. And then we would make them. But to get back to your original point of your question, the process was we would make all of these samples and think about what I said and call it a sample. And what we were doing, and it took me a couple weeks to figure out how his brain was working and that it was music. We were creating product much like he does music.
Right.
So we were taking samples, and we would take bits and pieces of it mash it up, mix it, and create a track, which became the sneaker. Right? So all of these things, Adidas looked at it as their normal process of making samples, but we were creating an archive of various samples. So like this shoe may have had this collar that was a guitar riff, essentially. We made this other one that had a tip and an outsole that was now a drum beat. And then we'd take those 3 or 4, we'd kind of mix it up, mash it up, and out of it would come something you'd never seen before. Just like when he would do a music sample, you know, you'd hear something that was like, oh, I think that's a Donna Summer song. But then he'd mix it up and create something you never heard before, but that was an ingredient of it.
Right.
And that process was completely different than the normal one within the industry. So I kind of still use it. It became another tool in my toolbox. So I use that process when I create and ask people to do designs like, oh, do this, do that. Let's take this, let's bring that. So I think that's what you have to think of, that you're building a sample archive.
Yeah,
and that's what he was doing.
That's a
We were
really cool
sampling.
analogy, because he's known in it musically for his samples.
Yeah.
And in footwear, it was the same thing.
Yeah, it was so different. And, you know, other people couldn't handle it or didn't understand it. Like, why the fuck am I doing it this way?
Yeah.
You know? And whereas I sat back and I like to learn something new every day, I was like, well, this isn't the normal process. This isn't the way I've done it, but let's see what happens.
Right.
And I think that was important, of having that open mind to this new process, this new way. And out of it came this magic like I had never done before. And hit after hit of what we did.
Oh my gosh.
Is that method or any other method things you brought over to Crocs?
Yeah, where they just let me freely create just like he did, which is very unique in a corporate environment. They were willing to take that risk, and they let me handpick my team, and some amazing things are going to be coming out of there real soon.
I'm really excited. I don't want to hold you too long because I know you're busy.
That's okay.
I know you're gone. This is
really cool. I would love to do a second episode, maybe without the noise. We can.
Oh
come
yeah,
out to
absolutely.
we will literally fly to anywhere that you are at, and we will bring everything.
Yeah, so you never know what the future holds. You never know where you'll end up. Yeah, if you told me 20 years ago you're going to be working with the top musical artist in the world creating sneakers for the fashion/sport world, I'd be like, what are you fucking talking about? I do Olympic spikes so people can win gold medals. That's what I do. I'm not doing that shit. But we changed the game, broke the rules, and created all new categories of products. So it's been great. And, I look with fondness to my time with him, in spite of how it ended. It was 8.5 years of magic, but sometimes, people need to help themselves. You can't help them as much as you try. So.
And it was truly, I mean, not to keep the conversation going, but truly the work that you guys did was not only so different for the time, but it's iconic, it's timeless, and it's something that no one had ever done before.
And it changed the sneaker game, like the way sneakers are designed from that point on.
Even that, and the way they were retailed,
Yes.
Yeah.
Online
they're
drops
sold.
only, sold out. That was the thing, in the past, they talk about sell-through, right? Sell-through is a percentage of what went out in the first launch. There's no such thing as sell-through with us. It was sell-out every time. It was a completely different thing than the industry was known to operate. So we changed everything. That's what was amazing. It wasn't just we changed the product, we changed the retail space, we changed how things are sold. We changed the time frame in which things were done. We shifted the whole mindset to replenishing or reissuing, and everybody's like, more 750s, and he's like, I don't want to do another 750. And so I was constantly designing new 750s. He would get so pissed off at me.
So
Stop
that's why
it, bro.
they never came. I was wondering why they just kind of stopped. I was like, I really like the 750. Yeah.
It was funny. Every week I would bring at least 5 750 concepts, and he'd get so mad at me. Stop it, bro. I don't want to do another one. I said, well, I think it's such a cool shoe. He goes, no, stop. I said, I can't help it. Sometimes I do it just to get them pissed off.
That's what.
Oh my gosh! I mean, I remember the 750 that came out with the gray suede upper and like the gum outsole that glowed in the dark. I'm like, I didn't know gum could glow green. Like that was just a material thing for me. It was like wild. Or like, I mean, there's so many different things, but
And that was the other thing too. Would do the dual releases of a 350. Some will glow in the dark, some weren't. Some were reflective, some weren't.
That was on purpose.
And you didn't know what you were getting. Yeah.
because as someone just from the outside looking in, I was like, so were they not able to manufacture all of them? Was that I never knew the answer, but that was the plan.
Yeah, it was just discovery.
I love that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What was that first sellout like for you? Like the first pair that was like an immediate sellout. What was that feeling like?
It was this first shoe I did with them. It was amazing. I'm like, wow, that's cool.
Where do you remember where you were when you like saw it, like that sellout?
I think I was down there with him.
Yeah.
I was on one of my trips to Calabasas, you know.
It's incredible.
I'm like, how'd it do? They're like, they're gone. I'm like, what? They're gone. I didn't get a pair. So luckily I had these, you know, but I
You
didn't.
got literally the best pair ever. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, they're beat to shit. You know, I've had to glue them
doesn't
back
matter.
together a few times.
That gives it the story though. That gives it like truly I mean, this is the designer's pair. This is the one that like, it's incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
So the tooling for that, what was tooling for that? Like, what was like built, like designing the midsole and like throwing the boost in there? And like, what was the sampling process like for that? Like,
It was really funny because Adidas sphincter got really tight because we were calling it the Wave Runner, and they're like, "Das can't call it a runner. It needs to go through a lab in Germany to be performance running. So you just can't call it that." And they're like, "It's just a fucking name. Who cares?" You know. So they you know, we had these really high sidewalls, especially this was even higher up here. And they're like, "You don't do that as a 450, no flex, and blah 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 blah." And Ye was like, "You can run in these, can't you, Steven?" I said, "Absolutely, give them to me." I took them out and I did 5 miles at lunch. I'm like, "There you go." And so they sent it to Germany, and it was a classic where they ran it through all their filters and their running team, and it came back looking like every other fucking running shoe. They took all the overlays off. That was one-piece upper. They flattened the midsole out. They sent them to us. I went there for the meeting, and they pulled it out of the bag. Kanye took one look at it, because I'll call him Kanye, because he was Kanye at that point, not Ye. And but we called him Ye anyway as a friend. But they pulled this thing out of the bag. He's like, and they handed it to him. He just looked at it, and he took this thing and frickin' punted it across the room like a fucking NFL kicker through the goalpost.
oh my gosh.
Fuck this! Boom! And off it went across the room, and they were like, "Oh my god!" Go back to the one Steven was doing. It was hilarious. There's all those things you always want to do in the corporate world where you're like, "I'll get fired if I do that." And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" He called out the
I would have
bullshit.
loved to have been a fly on that wall.
Oh my
watching
god,
that.
it was epic. I was like, "Wow, that's a first."
Yeah.
Did they ever give you any kind of constraints in terms of design, or were they like, listen, like, we trust you?
Were they pulling you in your room and be like, "Yo, stop him, stop
The,
him"?
the question is, who's they?
Oh,
Because it was
fair.
me and him,
Right.
and they had no say or choice in it.
That's incredible.
It was a steamroller, you
That's
know.
incredible.
'Cause-
And it worked. I mean, it's
yeah,
so-
that's the thing. Every time it worked, every time. So how do you argue with that?
Yeah.
But then eventually, you know, the corporate toxicity spread in, the cancer of
Right.
meetings and hierarchy and layers kept trying to creep in on the Adidas side, and
Right.
it frustrated all of us, and that led to what happened. So anyway,
Yeah.
it was an awesome time. You guys are great. This was awesome. It's great to
Thank
tell
you
the
so
stories.
much for stopping by.
This is truly like, and seriously, like, let us know. We will come out to you anytime.
Sure, I can pull out some samples of different stuff over the years, things people have never seen.
In Chicago at All-Star Weekend, we were following the tank truck that was
Oh yeah, I
dropping
was
off
I was in one of the Sherps.
Oh,
that's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah, I was in one of the Sherps. I was on the south side. We were handing them out to kids on the street. It was cool. That was an epic moment because, you know, Nike spent all this money on their PR launch and with Jerry and some of the Fear of God stuff. And we're driving down the street in Chicago, and this kid had just bought the Fear of Gods and handed them to me. And it was like, trade them for the Quantums.
That blew up on Twitter, right? I think I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
And so we gave him a pair, and he's trying to hand. I'm like, no, keep them. you know, because Quavo was in the one in front of me.
Oh my God.
And Boo and Quavo were in the Sherp in front of me. And it was so cold that weekend. God, it was cold. But yeah, what an epic moment and epic
Absolutely.
event.
You guys
know.
made history.
Yeah, we had 10 Sherps, five on the south side. I was in the south side once, 5 on the north side along the lake. It was pretty epic. Yeah, it's another pair of wave runners. That guy's got them on right here with the baseball cap backwards.
When you go to a sneaker convention, are you seeing like maybe 8 different silhouettes, or is it a lot of the same? Like you see the 700s, you see the 500s, or the 550s, sorry.
I see them all, you know, because Air Maxes that I did. You know what? I haven't seen too much of this time. I haven't seen many of the Supreme Spectrums. I keep looking for those with the flames. That was one I originally done for Nike Japan as a performance marathon.
I had
shoe.
no idea about that one. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I did that, and then I did the Cage Zoom Spirit On that they then re-released with Stussy.
That was such a dope release too. That was such a sick shoe.
Yeah, so I did some big ones everywhere. That's the thing. Like I said, I got this gift from God that I create this product for these companies. And now it's Crocs' turn.
This has been absolutely incredible.
Thank you so much
Seriously,
for stopping
thank
by.
you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.